This is the Rundown Show, brought to you every week, where the Fab Four assemble and break down the top 5 Catholic items in the news. Today we're joined by a very special guest, the man who needs no introduction, Dr. Taylor Marshall, author of Infiltration. We're talking about Texas lawsuit. 20-plus states have joined. Will they overturn the election? Rush Limbaugh weighs in on the issue. Will there be secession? Succession? Secession? Secession? How do you say that word? Rothschilds. Pope. Married. Are they in bed together? Not literally, but figuratively. Creepy. Speaking of creepy, obelisks, aliens in the news, literally again. Is this some kind of weird sci-fi thing? And finally, New World Order. Watch. Here we go. Gentlemen, good morning. How are you? Thanks for joining us. Special guest, Dr. Marshall. First story up, gentlemen. I want to kick it over to Steve first. Texas is leading the way. Taylor's sitting in Texas right now. I'm jealous. God's country.
I was going to let everybody else give their points, and I was going to tell everybody how they were wrong.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll kick it over to Dr. Marshall then first. You're leading the way down in Dallas-Fort Worth. 20 states are joining you, including mine.
Well, Texas is the best. It's the Republic of Texas. We got Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, we always liked Ted Cruz, but he was kind of a
Canadian,
kind of geeky,
Mm-hmm.
But he grew a beard and he just killed a deer, and now he's leading this thing, and he's pretty cool now.
He's still Canadian.
I mean, look, it takes the Texans to get things started, and
is it true that
I'm
Ted Cruz was
that we
asked?
have so little time.
Is it true that Trump asked him to do the case?
I'm proud to be a Texan, and I'm proud that we're leading the charge. I think it's good.
I will admit, South Carolina is the first state to leave. Texas came later.
Okay.
So for those who don't know, there is a lawsuit right now. Texas is suing 4 of the swing states, arguing that the votes of the good men and women of the state of Texas have been disenfranchised by the voter fraud that is happening in those states. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and one other. So that's on the docket at the Supreme Court. And Dr. Marshall mentioned Ted Cruz, who purportedly has been asked personally by Donald Trump to prosecute the case in front of the Supreme Court, which I can think of no better guy to do that. Ryan Grant, thoughts?
My thoughts are, my prediction of the whole thing is that ultimately it's going to be the media and the created reality that's not really reality that's going to carry the whole thing through. And that's why I'm still convinced, even though I don't like it, I'd rather it was the other way around, but we're probably going to see a President Harris in the White House just on the power of the media. So whatever happens in front of the Supreme Court, the media still controls the public perception. And as much as people say, oh yeah, we don't trust the media, yes, they do. I mean, any time you see someone with a mask, you're watching somebody who believes the propaganda, unless he's been, just bullied into it by work, so because he's going to get fired if he doesn't wear it. He's just making that hard call, right? So yeah, I just don't see it getting anywhere where it's going to end up overturning what the media has created out of this spectacle of the election. And it's just a bit of foreshadowing. It's almost War of the Worlds-esque, where the media created its own reality and people.
Well, I have to admit, I am a little bit worried about getting my hopes up. I don't want to have false hope here that this is Trump's final judo move and he is going to win ultimately. I know, Steve, you have. Let's cut straight to full screen, Steve here.
It's just, they're trying to nationalize the election by pretending to be federalists at the same time. We're basically destroying federalism in this thing. Nobody in Texas got disenfranchised. According to state law, they had honest votes. They're trying to get in, and I'm not liking what happened. Yes, I know there's problems in the voting. People were getting, there were scams going on throughout. There's cheating, accepted. That happens every vote. They're going into other states to do. That's a state issue. Pennsylvania, that's Pennsylvania's problem. Texas can't go in and tell Pennsylvania how to vote, especially when Pennsylvania changed all this before the voting, as we talked about in our shows prior to the election, with North Carolina and Pennsylvania changing it. None of the states did anything at that time. They should have. If now they're bringing it up because their guy lost in those other states. So imagine Texas having that happen to them. They wouldn't like that if Pennsylvania sued them for disenfranchising.
Well, that's an interesting point. I mean, this does set an interesting precedent in terms of will blue states sue red states the next time we have a clear electoral win on the Republican side, right? I mean.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it did not violate the 15th, 19th, 24th, or 26th Amendments. Nobody was age, race, sex, poll tax, nothing like that. Yes, there's cheating involved. Like, again, there was cheating in everything. Trump probably has some cheats going on. My state, North Kakalaki, the People's Republic, the Fuhrer Cooper, there's cheating with him. It went red, 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 red. This guy, red, 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 and now he's got martial law. There's guys trying to go after the mail-ins, which we all knew was coming. There was going to be problems with the mail-ins.
I think Dr. Taylor Marshall would appreciate some martial law, maybe. I think, but if he laid down the law, the cheating though, Dr. Marshall, has been widespread. It's documented. You can point to it as verifiable. The 3 a.m. dump. I mean, like, what else can we do though?
Yeah, I don't see this as violating state rights. It's true. If other states changed rules and cheated, then the other states have a right, I think, to pursue it. The chief executive will have influence over the state of Texas and all the states. And so if certain states cheat to bring about a certain outcome, and we can prove there was a cheat, then I think other states have the right to complain about it and sue. It affects us.
Yeah.
And that's why I go back to, they can throw that back to whoever's.
Let them. Then let them.
But it's not a national thing. It's a state.
It is a national thing. It's the presidency.
No. That's where we go in. Now it's nationalism. We killed federalism. Now we're one gigantic land blob. Destroy the states. We got to take away the states then.
And that's what happened in the Civil War. We went from the United States are to the United States is.
The bottom line is, if Texas and everybody else doesn't like or say they're disenfranchised, and I agree with them, we got to leave the dysfunctional union. Why are we trying to put a patch, a Band-Aid on the Titanic?
Ryan, brother makes a good point. We used to say the United States are. We used to say these United States are. Mm-hmm. Now we say the United States is.
Right.
Language matters.
Because the United States comes to mean the sum total of the national policy of whatever is decided in Washington, D.C., in the District of Criminals, not in terms of the agreement of the states of this country to X, Y, and Z policies. So a lot of that's affected the Civil War, but there's an even greater shift that's happened in the 20th century, which is that what's happening in your locality, and the television is largely the main driver and aggregator of this. And so what's on your TV every night? You're not watching public access. You're watching ABC and CBS and so on. And so you're not seeing your local politics. You're seeing you're seeing the District of Criminals politics for, ever since TV became ubiquitous in this country. So that whatever's going on, in your state, even most people can't name anyone in their legislature. They can't name the legislator that's in their district, their legislative congressman. No idea. He comes around, oh yeah, that's the small game stuff. We don't care about that. Those are the people that have power over you right now and determine whether you can go to the store without a mask or not.
That goes back to the Catholic principle of subsidiarity too. It's kind of like, are we striving for the Catholic principles of governance, or are we all just kind of like, extremely focused on the presidency? However, I would also point out, and maybe you can weigh in, Dr. Marshall, the presidency matters a lot. Whether we like it or not, it's an objective reality that the power of the federal government, especially the executive branch, has grown so much to the point to where we do have to care about it. Yeah, it's not ideal, but we do have a very large executive branch. And we would rather it be, pro-life and et cetera than not.
Yes, I'd prefer to have political subsidiarity. I'd prefer that we were more federal. I'd prefer all of that, but we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to fight the current battle that we have. I think this is, I'm a monarchist. I'd love to hand over Texas and Mexico back to the Habsburg and pursue that way of life. That's what I want and prefer. But I don't appreciate it when people get on social media and say, ha ha, don't you wish you had monarchy? Yes, of course. Of course, I wish I had St. Louis IX ruling from Austin, Texas. Of course, but I don't. It's like telling the hobbits don't have this ring and there weren't Mordor. Of course, they wish they were just in the Shire.
Yeah,
that's not the hand that we were dealt in 2020. We have a huge Leviathan in Washington, D.C. that is threatening our entire way of life. And whether or not we can attend the holy sacrifice, the mass, or not. And that's what we have to fight right now.
Technically, we got an elected monarchy. So we got a monarchy. It's kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
well, an
medieval monarch had the executive powers that our president has.
Oh yeah, I think I'm very fond of saying that I think King George III would blush at the power of the U.S. presidency in 2020.
Exactly.
I mean, if Sleepy Joe gets in, what's he going to do? He's going to renege everything that Trump did by executive order. So you have governed by executive order, just like you have governed by judiciary. The SCOTUS runs 9 unelected judges, and the president has too much power. I mean, Congress is basically worthless. They don't do anything. It's whatever, like Obama. What he said.
They don't do anything.
I'm in charge.
Oh no, they do stuff. Mostly money laundering and bribes, and that's all been legalized by congressional rules.
Well, so this leads into the second story, I think, because if you kind of look at the history of the world, the shape of nations and peoples and city-states and the borders thereof have changed so much over time. And yet, since World War II, in the Western world, we have not really seen any borders change at all. And so we have fallen into this, I think, thinking that you can never reshape your nation, et cetera. But Rush Limbaugh comes out on the radio and openly starts talking about secession. I mean, just musing about it. Now, for him to do that, I mean, look, it's one thing if it's because some conspiracist on YouTube or Steve at Census Fidelium, but at this point, it's
Mike Church. He does it all the time. I love it for.
It's like a mainstream. It's like a mainstream thing, though. That are we seeing the beginnings of what could become a kinetic conflict?
Can only hope to God that does. I mean,
I don't think so.
Some lefty put a photo up about the West Coast and Northeast going to Canada.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Awesome. Take these seats with you.
Right.
I got a book here by David Livingston from the Abbeville Institute. It's called Rethinking the American Union for the 21st Century. I think it might be out of print now. We'll see. There's a great, right in the opening, the introduction, he's got Thomas Jefferson from August 13, 1800. Our country is too large to have all its affairs conducted by a single government. Back in 1800, public servants is at such a distance and from under the eye of their constituents must, from circumstances of distance, be able to administer and overlook all details necessary for the good government of the citizens. And the same circumstances by rendering detection impossible to their constituents. When will invite the public agents to corruption, plunder, and waste. And I do verily believe that if the principle were to prevail of the common law being enforced in the U.S., which principle possesses the general government at once of all the powers of the state governments and reduces us to a single consolidated government, it would become the most corrupt government on the earth.
But that will never happen.
Has that not happened?
Are we seeing it? Are we seeing the precursor? Does it feel like 1840 America?
Yes and no, but not in the same way. But we're already set. I mean, worldwide, not just here, but especially in our own way, it's the same thing. It's playing out in places in Europe and other areas. It's just, like I said, in our character, there's the two irreconcilable factions of the woke and somewhat, pan-conservatism, people who are conservative for one reason or another, evangelical Protestants, Catholics, people who believe in the family, who reject the sacrament of the woke, which is abortion, people who, basically value, the reality in the human family, and the people that want to destroy it. Right. That's what these kind of irreconcilable factions, there's no talking to each other. There's no getting around it. You're either a woke, trans, whatever. I don't know, body positive, striking fear in the hearts of all you can eat restaurants everywhere. Or you are on the other side, you are, conservative, you love the family. You're not, those factions want to destroy each other. And you see it in the Antifa. And Antifa is soy boys who run around and shout and scream. And Antifa is also highly trained people, sometimes black ops that are hired by Soros and company. So there's a mix there. And you never exactly know which one is showing up at which event. So it's not like it's just the soy boys going to hit you with styrofoam bats. There's some seriously violent people on that side too. So it would not surprise me if something happens somewhere, like a John Brown incident, and such, back in the 19th century, that just kicks off. It's the powder keg that starts kicking off these factions going at it.
It sounds like Ryan is saying we're irreconcilable and sitting on a tinderbox. Dr. Marshall, how do you feel?
Well, regarding, states seceding, let's be honest, not just because I'm in Texas, but Texas has the best position to do so because we have, well, we're not California, but we have a major seaport. Yeah. We have a harbor, and we're on a border with another country. So we have, I think, the strongest geographic case to do so. But I think, and I hate to even admit this, but I think it's impossible, because when you look at the major cities, Dallas, Houston, and Austin, they are blue. They're controlled by the liberals. Those are the economic and political powerhouses in Texas. And, in order for Texas to become the Republic of Texas and no longer be the United States of America, there would have to be not blood outside the borders. There would be blood inside the borders.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
There would be an internal war. Not only would we have to fight the United States of America, those cities would have to be run over by a lot of bloodshed to be retaken by conservatives to complete erecting our own nation state. I just don't see that happen.
I think the stat is 4 out of 5 Texans live inside the Texas Triangle, what you described, the triangle between Dallas, Houston, and Austin, San Antonio.
It's in the Texas Constitution. They can even
Is that
break
true?
up
I've always heard
four.
that. I heard that at A&M. I heard that throughout my life, but I've never verified that. Does anybody know if that's true?
Let's pull up the Texas Constitution. Not too many people in Texas probably have read it.
No, but you're right. I mean, so if let's just play a little mental exercise here. Let's say a group of states led by Texas did want to exit stage right, and they could pull it off. And you've got the Port of Houston, which is one of the busiest ports in the world. You've got a huge economy. Already, you're larger than many of the Western nations in Europe. Why would liberals fight to keep, let's call it the Southeastern Conference? Why would liberals fight to keep the SEC? Not just for football.
Control.
Because liberals believe in globalism, and you have to continue to create bigger and bigger states.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to be part of the United States of America, which wants to be part of the UN, which will become whatever the Antichrist arrangement is. And so Marxists who are motivated by Satan want to continue to build bigger and bigger states. So they're going to oppose anyone who says, let's make the Republic of Texas. So that's the problem. Unlike the Civil War in America, where the population of each of the states were generally agreed. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming the southern states, 90% of them agreed with the other states. The populace was pretty much in agreement.
Virginia didn't. They only jumped in because Lincoln wanted to invade through them the South and wage war on them. Then they left because of that, basically.
But still, they fought. I mean, they fought in the South. I just don't. Which state would have such a uniformity that they would all join together to fight against the United States of America?
Yeah.
Well,
not Texas.
Texas left. Some southern states would join in, like South Carolina definitely. North Carolina probably wouldn't.
Well, let me put it this way: if you use the prominence of people wearing masks as a proxy for how they feel about things. I just completed a road trip across 15 states diagonally from Florida all the way up to the state of Washington through Idaho, etc. So I've been in a lot of cities in the last 30 days just driving, doing things. As Taylor said, every population center, it doesn't matter if you're in Cheyenne, Wyoming. It doesn't matter if you're in a resort town in Montana. The population centers are blue, and the countryside, you see no masks, you see no social distancing. So it's a very real scenario here where we really shouldn't think about it in terms of states, red states, blue states. We should think about it more in terms of counties, populous counties versus rural counties. Ryan, how do you unpack that?
Well, that's certainly what we see here in Idaho. I've got another, actually, mutual friend of ours, Mike, from another chat that's down in southern Idaho, and he tells largely the same story. Like Ada County is probably the bluest county in all of Idaho, but that's only in Boise. Outside of Boise, normal people that as much as they can don't want to wear a mask, even though the county's really gone strong on enforcement. Whereas up here, Kootenai County, you have Coeur d'Alene, and Coeur d'Alene absolutely wants enforcing these stupid mask policies and things of this sort. The sheriffs won't do it. The police won't do it up here. One, because they don't want to tick off the public unnecessarily. So hardly, maybe a third of the people up here wear masks, except in Coeur d'Alene. You have a much higher percentage there because it's the population center. And then as you stretch out going to the north here, into wonderful places like Athol, where I live, so I'm a real Athol, and Sandpoint, and things of this sort. They it just goes down and down and down. Okay, so it is the cities, and this is the same story, just like you've been saying. Friends in Minnesota have said the same thing. Colorado, actually, I know a couple priests who live in Colorado, and they live out, in rural areas, and they say, in rural areas, it's as conservative as it can possibly get. You go into Denver, proper in the range there, it's as blue and woke as you could possibly see it.
Yeah.
Denver, for example, it's what do you call it? Sanctuary city inside the city limits. Outside it's open carry. That's how different. You can open carry at the airport, but you can't open carry in downtown Denver.
Now, I know Steve has talked at great length about the Great Reset and why they want to continue to urbanize Americans and pack them into cities, because there's something about being in a city that just turns you blue. But Brother Martin, when you talk about the availability of the Latin Mass, it's not in the countryside, it's in the cities. So we're kind of like at the mercy right now of where the population centers are.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that kind of varies from diocese to diocese, because if a bishop doesn't want the Latin Mass, he's not going to put it in the city. He's going to make it out in the country. Like down here where I live, there's 2 Latin Masses, and they're both very far away from urban centers. So there's that. I remember when I lived in Colorado, they have an FSSP parish down in Littleton. But then also there's only one other one that's east on I-70. Yeah,
Colorado Springs.
Also Colorado Springs. So I guess it depends on. Yeah, I mean in Kansas City where I used to live, they have like 3 different options, all within like 10 miles of each other. You know, they're very very close. So yeah.
Why do they want to pack us in cities, Steve?
I mean, this thing is going down. I mean, you get how much? And we've got what 435 in the House of Representatives. Yes, I'm using the idiocracy way of saying it. 100. We have 536 total governing people up in D.C. to rule 320 million people. What is that phrase I keep saying, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
Think locally, act locally. It goes back to secession. It looks impossible right now because all our like-minded people are focusing where? D.C. Even at Raleigh about the martial law here, you see federal flags all over the place. It's not a federal issue. The president has no say in what Governor Cooper does to his own state. That's the power of the state. Again, eliminate the Bill of Rights if we want to take over and become emperor of the States. Take out the United part. Take out the states part. But think locally, act locally. We got to fix our local governments. We got to fix the governors. We got to fix the state houses. Guarantee Soros and Schwab are working on the local and state governments. Soros gave a couple $1,000s to Cooper here in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Guarantee other governors are getting money from those same guys. But if we're just focusing on there and they're focusing on everything else, we're going to lose. That's why Young Americans for Liberty with Tom Woods they were on his show the other day talking about how many great strides they made in victories in the last election in the localities, the state boards, mayors, things like that. We got to get our boys into that, train them, do something. We got to focus on that. If not, kiss this goodbye. Because even if Trump wins, we still are going to lose in the local places.
Yeah, you're right, and I've heard Taylor say this as well in terms of think locally, act locally.
Yeah, one hopeful thing, I mentioned how it's impossible to pull off, getting states to be their own republics or breaking this whole thing up. There is one hope, and that is we are seeing in the last year or two influencers and wealthy people and large groups of people leave the cities.
Yeah.
Abandon the cities. And we could see, I can't tell the future, but it might be that in the next 20 years that we see the collapse of cities. And that would be a good thing. That could pave the way for something. People, now with, people working at distance and working at home, the whole idea of putting 2 million people inside of a loop to live together in crowded apartments and crowded roads, people don't want that. And maybe we'll see the collapse of cities. Chicago's collapsing. New York's collapsing. LA's collapsing. Maybe these powerful blue cities will eventually collapse under their own weight.
That's a good point. That's probably one of the unintended consequences of the pandemic, right, Steve? Because I've seen it. I've seen a flight. Even a lot of my business partners have left Los Angeles. They're like, I'm out of here.
Well, Goldman Sachs, for example, just said they're leaving New York City. They're going to either Florida or Texas. But yeah, I mean, you're going to see a lot as what somebody, I can't remember what podcast I was listening to saying that in 1 to 2 years, you're not going to recognize the area you live in or the North American continent or pretty much the world. As Taylor said, that the reason the pandemic made everyone stay at home, that's part of the reset. They want you to get you accustomed to staying at home, to get the net zero emissions, so you're not driving your car, so you're avoiding other people, so you're being more tech on this. And I just listened to a podcast today. They're talking about how to get people out of the jobs they're in now to train them for these tech jobs that they have no business being in. They didn't say the no business part.
I don't know if you remember
about truck drivers teaching yoga classes.
Back in April, the Vatican was going on about how great it is for Mother Earth that nobody's driving, and all these emissions have gone down, and in the meantime, well, people are losing their jobs, people are starving, childhood hunger, especially in the third world, is going up because food and everything is disturbed, and all the Pope and the Vatican could do is talk about how wonderful this is
Yeah,
for Mother Earth.
I thought that early on, he had said that youth unemployment was the greatest evil facing the planet. Okay, fine, Steve. Listen, we're gonna take your advice. We're not gonna focus on the federal election right now. Let's talk globalism now. Third story up: Rothschilds and others solidifying a marriage. Taylor Marshall did a podcast about it, I think yesterday or Wednesday. Taylor, fill us in on what's happening with that.
Yeah, so the third wife of Evelyn Rothschild has started this initiative with Pope Francis. She's his right-hand lady, and they're redefining capitalism to use her term that she's branded is inclusive capitalism. And then Lynn Rothschild and Pope Francis have designated guardians of inclusive capitalism. And these include the biggest CEOs on earth. So we're talking about the CEO of MasterCard, who's a Sikh and who says we need to have all religions work together on inclusive capitalism. The CEO of Visa, Bank of America, Allianz, Cowper, Merck, Johnson & Johnson, British Petroleum, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation.
Wow.
I mean, this is the who's who of globalists. And it's so interesting. You know, I've been reading this book, Let Us Dream. This is the Pope Francis book.
Mm-hmm.
Have any of y'all read this?
It's on the
Haven't
way.
gotten it yet.
Okay. You know, he's talking about all these evil capitalists and, you know, being for the little guy, but look who he hangs out with. And I also want to bring up, I don't know if you have the image, but if you show him, I guess I can't really share my screen on this, but here he is in the Vatican with all these CEOs. Yeah. They're not wearing masks.
No, exactly.
They're hanging out, and you know he won't have a public Easter, or we don't know. It looks like he's not going to have a public Christmas. But all these CEOs can get together without masks and take photos and make decisions for the whole world.
Mm-hmm. NBA stars.
It's completely hypocritical. And I don't understand why Francis says, "Oh, I'm for the little guy" and all that. And look at his friends. Look who he appoints. Look who he hangs out with. Mega CEOs. And he's designating them as the guardians.
Yeah,
that's his term. I didn't make
Fox guarding the hen house. I mean, it's almost put out there as a term to. A lot of times when they make up these terms, they put them out there, you know, because he's not sitting there coming up with all this stuff himself. It's being fed to him by underlings who are crafting the message and putting it out there, and they're getting their feedback from, well, all the people that Francis is working with. So when he comes out saying "Build Back Better," someone's fed him that, just like they fed it to Trudeau and they fed it to Biden. They fed it to every single, to hair sniffer there, and every single person in the world. They're getting that's in some position of leadership, and they're using the phrase. It's like flashing a little Masonic, sign of some sort. Hey, look, everybody, I'm a Mason. That's the subtle signal that you're doing. Yeah. I mean, not to bring in Freemasonry into this discussion, but it's analogous to that. So Francis coming out, guardians of international capital, that the people that have done all the bad stuff show that he's been complaining about his entire pontificate. They show no signs of ceasing to do anything that's going to harm it, and it all ties in with, once again, the green agenda, climate change agenda, which we've seen the beginning, we've seen him kind of parody, mirror the elite since Laudato Si. And who does he get in the Vatican? Jeffrey Sachs, Paul Ehrlich, who's like the charlatan. Excuse me, the charlatan of pseudoscience. He's the high priest charlatan of pseudoscience in modern Malthusianism. The guy has been wrong about every single prediction he's ever made in his books. I mean, it's insane the kind of things that he's predicted and been wrong about, and then come out, and his pro-abortion eugenic views not only have not changed, they've gotten even stronger, to the point where he wants RU 486 put in the water to cause women to spontaneously abort all the time. That way we'll slow down that world population.
Oh,
right?
Dear.
He is at the Vatican at the release of Laudato Si, this big conference on the environment back at, I believe it was 2016. Maybe Taylor, you might know that date better if I'm wrong about the date. But you know, and then he has, you know, he's Jeffrey Sachs there. He's Paul Ehrlich there in the Vatican to speak about the dangers of climate change. And it's insanity.
Yeah,
that these people are all there, but he can't see Cardinal Zen.
Cardinals. Man, let's table that for a second, and I want to go back to that, but I want to bring Brother Martin. And you heard Taylor say that the Pope is hanging out with the richest, most powerful people in the world. Brother Martin, I thought he was the Pope of the poor. Isn't that what he said?
Especially when he's in front of the cameras, he's definitely the Pope of the poor, giving kisses to babies, giving kisses to people that are sick, all that kind of stuff. But what we're hearing from the news and from his actions is the exact opposite. I mean, especially when it comes to, cloistered nuns. I mean, he's passed legislation that basically has squashed the cloistered monastic life. All of them are suffering. All of them are thanks be to God, they're waking up and seeing the light in the tradition, and that they will return to tradition to survive. But yeah, especially when it comes to religious, especially when it comes to the poor, I mean, he's not really passed anything or done much to help anybody's situation. All he's doing is shaking hands, having photos taking of him shaking hands with rich people, as Dr. Marshall was saying earlier, and his actions speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm. Build back better. We should be pretty skeptical of anybody who partners with the Rothschilds, right? I mean, like that's just that should cause your Catholic spidey senses to go on high alert.
I think Edward Pinson published something about I guess the South American bishops, when they had their bishops conference, they were receiving money from the Ford Foundation, which obviously is pro-abortion, all that kind of stuff. And so this is kind of par for the course. They ignore all criticism from the media regarding who they affiliate themselves with. I guess we can continue screaming these things at the top of our lungs or whatever, but it just seems like their modus operandi is simply to ignore, and it'll pass away. So,
if you go to the World Economic Forum website, everybody that Dr. Marshall brought up, they're on the partners list.
Yeah,
the Holy Father is on Davos. He's been given the leading opening prayer through, was it Turkson?
Every year. Turkson was at this meeting as well on the 8th. Yeah. And by the way, this meeting of all these guardians with the Rothschild happened on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception.
Oh no!
Everything happens on that.
I just feel like we're being trolled constantly by the Holy
especially.
Oh man, they are trolling us. They are trolling us. Yeah. In fact, you tweeted that the other day, Taylor, with the side by side of the two popes wearing white and they're shaking each other's hand. Yeah. They're literally trolling us. Why?
Evil likes to mock and twist that which is good, and this is what we're seeing. It's not enough just to be contrary to the good. There's also a mockery. I think the demonic delights in the mockery. Mm-hmm. It's fun. It's fun for the demon. So yeah, I mean, you send out not only things that are against the faith, but then you just do all these things that raise questions in the mind of the faithful. For example, when you see two men in a white cassock with white zucchettos wearing rings, kissing each other's rings, sitting side by side in front of new cardinals, your head explodes. How do you even process that imagery?
Yeah.
And then, economic wise, Schwab's got a new book coming out in 2021 called on his stakeholders capitalism thing, which is basically what this is all leading into on that, which if you know anything about it, it's basically you're caring only about your stakeholders. You don't give anything about who the product, the people of it. You're just making sure your stockholders gets paid well. Yeah. The little guy could go there. That's why you see Walmart, Amazon, etc., just blowing it out of the water.
Yep.
And the little guy can't even, like in Canada, the barbecue place being arrested. The gym in New York City, or the bar in New York City, got the cops out in front, which, by the way, is awesome that he put it. This is an autonomous zone.
That's funny. Yeah, I just saw a barbecue joint in Kansas City. The guy said, "I'm not closing," and he's defying them, and he will go to jail.
You gotta have straight the numbers. That's
the joy of Idaho. There's a restaurant just down the road. I mean, the governor went to stage 2. He's supposed to be like limited capacity. He just packed his place. He says, I don't care. And the chief of police likes the guy and eats there. Nothing's happening to him at all. And they basically decided up here, we're just not going to enforce it at all. And that's one of the important, I think, the solutions is working with your local police. They're the enforcers. There's actually a guy who has an initiative right now. It's called the Thick Red Line. And if you can find that if you just type it in online, you should be able to find it. And it's just people. It started in California, working with the local cops and saying, hey, you're part of our community too. You don't want to enforce this. You don't want to, close down your neighbors and put them out of a job, do you? I mean, now one of you can't resist, but what about your entire department? Well, let's get in. Say this guy, goes through. At the thickredline.com or .org, I forget what it is, but how to work on essentially bringing the cops around to, we're not going to enforce this. And once they do it in mass, there's nothing City Hall can do. The politicians are helpless without their enforcers.
I want to touch on one thing that's already been brought up, and it relates to what we're talking about with small businesses being crushed. How is it possible that Pope Francis has time to hang with the CEOs of major investment banks and credit card companies, but he has no time, none, for Cardinal Zen? When Cardinal Zen only has, 48 hours in Rome, he escapes, communist China to get there to try to brief the Pope on the plight of Chinese Catholics, and no time for that.
Well, the people who pay the bills don't want him to see Cardinal Zen.
I saw a very distressing tweet this past week. I think I retweeted it. There was a priest who sent a video of Hong Kong. There was a bus, and it was surrounded by people's family members just patting on the window constantly, because I guess their family members were being bussed off to re-education camps.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And the priest was like, we said this would never happen again, and here it is happening right after Cardinal Zen was trying to meet the Holy Father to say, hey, this is dangerous. What's going on here? It becomes more and more disturbing day by day.
Yeah, it's a question, Taylor, of priorities, right? I mean, what are the priorities from Rome?
Well, I remember several years ago, this is under Francis being in Rome. I was teaching some seminarians, and some seminarians met with Ganswein, who's who assists both Benedict and Francis, and they said, "What are the goals of the current pontificate?" Meaning Francis, and he said, "Immigration."
Okay.
I think he said, I think he said immigration and family or something like that.
Mhm.
But the Vicar of Christ, the Supreme Pontiff, his office and his charism is to guard and propagate the faith, to bind and loose with the keys. Immigration is a social issue, and it can be a moral issue as well, but that's not even it's not the core of the papacy. And if we look at the 7 years of this pontificate, we can sum it up with eco-theology, economic socialism, and basically making Catholic morality lax or relative.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone disagree with those things?
Yeah. Yeah,
that goes back to saying he's part
it's
of
in the public. It's in the open.
That's why I said he's part of the WEF, the Schwab ideas, and him and Schwab might be good friends for all I know.
That's true.
Well, the thing that the Holy Father wrote the other day, I told you, Mike. I go, man, did Francis write that or Schwab?
Yeah, somebody should make a
Right.
troll account on Twitter and just retweet both of those men and then just say, who said it? Who said it better? Okay, all right, Steve, just for you, to make you to if it pleases the court, we've gone from talking about the state of Texas, then to the U.S., then to the entire world and the Holy Father and the Rothschilds, but even that's not big enough. We got to talk about aliens and obelisks.
Oh, I thought you were asking me for that quote. I was going to write the big government quote from the Great Reset book. Never mind.
No. It's obelisk time now, bro. What, Ryan? I don't even know. I just see pictures of these. I haven't dived into this. What are these obelisks? And they're like what? They're appearing in random places or something, or
They're appearing in random places. So this is from USA Today. Just noting where these have been. They say the most recent instance, closer to Steve, a smaller structure was spotted in Fayetteville, North Carolina. The 3-foot-tall structure appeared in the raised flower bed on the sidewalk in front of McKee Homes Design Studios, according to a news release from Cool Spring Downtown District. According to whatever, I mean, get into it, but they say it just showed up one day. Right. And that's been happening all over since November 18th. There has been sightings in the United States, in Eastern Europe, and all these other places. Now, I mean, some of them could be copycats and fake, but there is an effort to, and of course, interestingly, where do they take it from? They take it, this thing that looks like it's from a Kubrick film, like 2001, if anyone remembers that, which, apart from the fact that the director must have been on LSD when he made it, there's certain interesting reveals. I mean, Kubrick's always got interesting things going on in his movies, but there's a guy who has basically an iPad, but this was made in like 70 something, so 60 something. And, you see little things like that, but so it's a curious thing that's popped around. And then you come to this story from the Jerusalem Post, so mainstream paper out of Israel. Okay. Former Israeli space security chief says aliens exist and humanity's not ready. And so, and I won't read the entire thing, but then he goes on to talk about how he's claiming there's a galactic federation, and they've, already made contact with the United States and Israel, but people aren't ready for it. Why are you talking about it?
Is this the demons from the air? Is that what from the 3 Days of Darkness and all that?
I don't know about that. I think it's more insidious like this. Let's backtrack about 100 years, not quite 100 years, about 90 years or so. And what happened? The world's broadcast, where millions of Americans were convinced for a day that the United States was being completely laid to waste by aliens from Mars, right? Because it was broadcast on the radio, and the phones are going crazy. You have a couple of cities, like in Washington, there was a power outage right as this was happening. So then people are convinced, wow, see, it's proof this is all happening. I don't know if that was staged or just happened to happen, but interestingly, so this broadcast goes on, and the Rockefeller Foundation, which is now currently one of the guardians of international capital with the Vatican, right? They funded a study to examine Americans' response to the War of the Worlds broadcast and how people were panicking over something that was not happening. And so they done this study, and there's a lot of funding that goes around this from the Rockefeller Foundation and from the Ford Foundation and from all these usual suspects, examining human psychology and behavior during these things. So you look at the whole, I don't believe in aliens personally. I think it's loony sci-fi stuff. That's and I find it contrary to our religion. I don't see how Christianity can. Almost every other religion will work perfectly fine with aliens. I mean, Mormonism is, we've been founded by aliens type of thing, right? Okay, so, but Catholicism cannot, in my opinion. I'll be proven wrong about that, but it won't. It's hard metaphysically. Everything centers here in Scripture and in the Fathers, and Christ is one, with humanity, with us. Mm-hmm. So where do these other aliens fit in? Why are they affected by original sin? I mean, it's a huge challenge to original sin, Christology, and so many other things if there are aliens. But I think it's being seeded in the consciousness because it's one of many things that continues to serve the very same agenda. Stay home, don't go out, convince everyone something is going on that isn't going on. Oh, kind of like COVID 1984, where, they just did a thing showing that the numbers are virtually the same. It's just the media tricks highlighting these numbers, case-demic, whatever, have convinced people that something is going on that is not going on.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor, they've been injecting aliens into the zeitgeist for 40 years now. Why are they doing this? What does it all mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just these weird things showing up in different geographic areas. I mean, you go back really since the 1960s, and the whole idea of man on the moon brings up this idea: are we alone? And Ryan brings up a lot of great points here about how it undermines our doctrine of original sin, even our Christology, the incarnation, that there would be rational beings that have an intellect and a will that are not of the human nature. So it's really a battling ram, I think, against Christianity, against Catholicism. It's just another metaphysical competitor to Catholicism. There's the alien thing, but there's also the whole Marvel DC universe of the superhero. That's another competitor, which are really, I mean, many of them are aliens. Like Thor is technically an alien, if you follow that story. So basically, you have to realize that Hollywood and the cinema, these are the new bards that are telling the myths, telling the stories, and they're telling stories that are contrary to Catholicism.
Yeah.
And this excites the mind to believe that. So you see little kids, they're not into St. Joseph or St. Christopher or St. George. They're into Thor and Iron Man. And this is what, in Spider-Man, this is what captures the minds of children. And they're being catechized. They're being
Wow, that's
catechized.
insidious.
Yeah.
That is
That's an excellent point, which again goes back to media and the power of media to form and shape events, which just to bring it full circle, but we started that, and they've been studying this for a long time. Can you craft a notion of, authority, obedience to things that aren't a thing, aren't real, by using media and using technology to basically brainwash, if you want to use that term, bit inaccurately, but you know what it means. It's basically you're getting everyone focused on the propaganda, and who helped develop a lot of this stuff. Let's see.
It's a three-letter agency
Operation
I've heard
Paperclip
of before.
Yes. And governments are declaring now that they use propaganda against their own people. I mean, you just saw that in Canada, where to convince people to stay home, the military ran an op in this Canadian village with, with speakers telling everyone that they're wolves, and so don't go out. The wolves will get you. And literally had speakers playing wolf noises. There are no wolves there, but they ran this up to see how well people would comply with this. Again, another test of the propaganda.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty dark.
In the media,
but Steve, our government would never do that to us, right?
No. There are governments, and most all governments are ran by angels. What are you talking about? Just on the alien stuff. I mean, I didn't know anything about it until Ryan mentioned that when we were going over ideas. I'm going, what is he talking about? And then I saw a clip going, wow. But if you want more on the topic, go to Corbett's CorbettReport.com. And there's a How to Fake an Alien Invasion, episode 301. Check that out. He even brings in, for Catholic people listening, the Vatican. So he's got some stuff on there.
You have memorized every single Corbett report that there is, and I think you and Marshall need to be on Corbett to unpack all things Catholic. Make that happen.
I've been on.
You've been on Corbett?
Before.
Yeah, Ryan's been on.
Wow.
But he switched up. He wanted to talk about distributism, and I wasn't ready for it. I wanted to talk about kind of the Vatican and Jesuits.
Your
and
Twitter
things of
handle
that
is
sort, so we
literally
never quite got
Chester
there.
Belloc. How are you not prepared to talk about distributism?
Because I've been refining it with my anarchism, and that's been harder to work on. So,
all right, we got to get to the final segment before we do unpopular opinions and then shameless plugs. Final segment, New World Order Watch, standing segment ever since COVID-19 came on the scene. Steve, fill us in. What is happening in the New World Order Watch?
Well, I mean, the People's Republic of North Kakalaki, we just went on martial law starting in, it's 10:52 a.m. Fridays, whenever you are, Eastern Standard Time. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we go on martial law from 10 to 5. Virginia, the formerly free people of Virginia, the Washington, Jefferson, those guys got to be rolling over their graves, to institute nightly curfew. Now that's not saying to spam me with the Founders of Masons, guys. I know I'm not saying I'm on the Founder fan club. Just work with me. Virginia institute nightly curfew. New gathering limits mask rules beginning Monday midnight.
Oh yeah, I had heard that the virus doesn't spread between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m.
Oh no,
Yeah,
quick.
no. Here's something. Just think about this. The exceptions for North Carolina, Cooper put down has at the end. Well, basically, he says religious services are okay. NCAA professional sports are all right. Walmart's okay, obviously. The homeless are exempt.
They can't get it. They're immune.
Yeah, thanks. So they're not forcing the homeless to be
I
in their
just
homes.
been, I've been waiting for the homeless outbreak. I mean, because you think about it, poor sanitation, no social distancing, obviously out after curfew, and there's no outbreak.
Nah. And here's the
There's no alcohol. I mean, it's the alcohol. That's why there's no outbreak. Same reason I haven't gotten it.
Here's the headline that made my point. A pandemic side effect. This is Greenwich Times from the Washington Post. A pandemic side effect. Use mask polluting California coastal waters. I just love the headline.
Masks.
This is a great story. Oh, and Reuters came out. Americans get stern holiday warning. No Christmas parties.
Okay, that's the next thing. Okay, so Taylor, you probably were the loudest and most obvious about we're having a huge Thanksgiving. Here's the pictures. Kind of thumbing your nose at the government, which is great. They want to cancel Christmas, right? I mean, that's the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, even these nativity scenes where they're putting masks on the Blessed Mother, Saint Joseph, our Lord, angels, shepherds, they don't just want to put us into quarantine, they want to put God into quarantine. We have to understand that. And the way they do that is they do it symbolically by putting masks and cages around the Holy Family. We saw that a year ago, and before that, making these immigration statements by putting the Holy Family in cages. But that's all a parable. It's all a sign of what they're doing actually on December 25th, which is you can't have mass. You have to have 50%, or you can't have masks. If you do, you have to have masks. You have to have 50% occupancy. You can't sing, regulating the whole thing. And what's sad is even in places where the governors say you can do it, green light, bishops are saying we're not doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And this right here is showing that the medical crisis that we're under is an attack on Catholicism. It's an attack on the faith.
Yeah.
They are trying to quarantine not only humans, but they're quarantining God. You cannot access him. And we're the ones who get to decide. And it's not just the governors, it's bishops.
Yeah. No, we saw that with the first lockdown where bishop by bishop, diocese by diocese, they shut down preemptively before any state or local authority illegally ordered them to. I was just reading in the Von Trapp book. We love to do that, especially for the major seasons, Advent, Christmas, Lent, and Easter. And Maria Von Trapp writes that if humanity just sang together, there would be no wars. What you heard Taylor just say, Steve, is that they want to take away Christmas carols. No singing, no Christmas carols during midnight mass. That's an insane. I mean, that is an attack on our unity, on our culture, on our Catholic culture.
The Holy Father canceled midnight mass a couple of weeks ago ahead of the Italy Prime Minister canceling it just last week. I had a friend of mine tell me that there's a bishop. He wouldn't tell me what diocese. It's south of New York. I'll just say that. It's not New York. It's just south of that area. I don't want to give it away, but he's threatening to cancel masses if the cases are going up. Which, as the original guy, the PCR, who surprisingly died before all this started, said, hey, you can make this thing test positive for anything. So the cases are still going to go up because more people are doing this stupid testing, and they're going to get tested positive. So everyone's going to lose their minds, and the bishop will eventually, close it down. A priest walked up to a bishop, asked him for data just to have some idea of what's going on. Can you explain to me why this makes sense? The bishop pulled his faculties. He's only allowed to say mass, and the bishop runs his parish now. So the priests are scared of the bishops, even though I don't know some of the guys that near my area. The guys down the street from me, they're opened up. The guys down the street, down the border, south of the border in South Carolina, they're closed. They're keeping the more of the how would you say, bouncers at the door keeping people from going in. I actually heard a sermon where the priest got mad because the people were starting to get mad at him for not letting them all in. I don't know. I'm good. Hey, keep it up.
Yeah. All right, we are running short on time. I want to get to unpopular opinions. A couple people here on the stream have to go. And I would like to go, actually. I love hanging with you guys, but we got things to do. Unpopular opinions. We will go around the room. We'll ask Taylor to go last. As a reminder, this is your opportunity to give the most unpopular opinion, not the thing with which you disagree or whatever, so that we are incentivized to give our most unpopular opinion. We're going to put out a Twitter poll. Vote for the one that is the objectively most unpopular. Ryan Grant, you are up first today. Unpopular opinion. Stroke that beard, buddy.
What was the wait before you? What was this? Who week?
We forgot to do a poll last week. Can you believe that?
Oh well.
I know.
I just rehashed an old one anyway. All right. There's only one thing probably it's going to beat either brother or Dr. Marshall. And I'll make it quick since he's got to get going soon. Quo primum was not infallible. I'm no trad heretic, but Quo primum is a legal document, and Paul VI has the exact same authority that Pius V had, for better for worse. It's not infallible. Sorry, folks. It's a canonical document.
Okay, okay. We got it. Brother, unpopular opinion.
Even if Trump wins, the soul of America is still at stake. As Catholics, we have to go out and convert everyone. We have to have the same zeal as St. Francis Xavier for the conversion of souls. Because even if Trump wins, it's only 4 years, and then we're back in the same place. So I think, especially as trad Catholics, we have the truth, we have beauty. I think we need to talk more about how to convert atheists and Muslims and Protestants than so much about whether or not Trump is a good integralist or whatever. So.
All right, Trump is a Band-Aid, according to Brother Martin. That's his unpopular. Steve?
I'll go ahead and redo a tweet that I got hammered for posting. No matter who wins, Trump or Biden, we're going to get mandatory vaccines and the Great Reset. It won't be mandatory from the government. It'll be mandatory from every walk of life. You will get it, no matter who's the elected king.
That's scary. Vaccine coming soon. Okay, I'm gonna give I've been saving this one for a big day when I really felt like I needed to fight to win this unpopular opinion poll. I think shorts are for little boys. I just do. Shorts are for little boys. Men shouldn't wear shorts. All right, that's my unpopular opinion. Dr. Marshall.
All right, so I think we're all agreed that we should be using the pre-1955 Holy Week.
Yeah,
we all agreed on that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. My unpopular opinion is that it's perfectly acceptable, in fact, preferable for the Triduum liturgies of Maundy Thursday, Holy Friday, and Holy Saturday to be celebrated in the mornings before noon, not in the evenings as most traditional parishes currently celebrate them. And the reason for that is I think the Tenebrae needs to be preserved in its proper place.
Yes, absolutely.
We do Tenebrae on Wednesday night. Is that incorrect?
No, it should be Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night. And there should be Easter Matins on Saturday night.
Oh.
It's absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. If you don't know what Tenebrae is, you have to YouTube it, Google it, all that kind of stuff.
Look at Brother Martin, who normally wins, throwing his weight behind Dr. Marshall's unpopular opinion. The horse trading. The horse trading on this poll. I already know who's going to win. Okay, very quickly, shameless plugs. I have nothing to plug this week. Sensus Fidelium.
Nah, I got nothing. I just
Mediatrix Press.
Buy Chewy mugs. I don't know.
Okay. So it is Christmas time. If you order anytime next week, I have these priority mail envelopes that are only a few dollars more than media mail, actually, so to guarantee you actually get it. If you do media mail right now, you won't get it. So I have this book that I published a month ago, They Lived the Faith. Really great book, a lot of biographies of 13 Catholics that fought in the 19th century against liberalism and socialism. A lot of people, great. Orestes Brownson's probably the only one there that most Americans are familiar with. Maybe a couple others in there. So a lot of just excellent writing and history to get involved with. And then I have this book on St. Albert the Great, which I highly recommend. It's very good. I even have a lot of nice pictures in here. Excellent biography on St. Albert. And this one, nobody's ever heard of this guy, but there would be no Dominican order without this guy. Blessed Jordan of Saxony. The only account of him in English that I know of, except maybe a blurb and a little book on saints. Successor of St. Dominic, he's the one who organized the plan that Dominic had for the Dominican order and organized the rule. He's the one who gets Herbert de Roman to create to work on the Dominican liturgy, not create out of thin air, but you know what I mean, to establish it, and so many other different things that he's able to create that make the Dominican order flourish. Without him, it doesn't happen. It falls apart.
Ryan, if you are part of the Mediatric Press book club, as I am, I'm paying $50 a month. I get a book every month. It's awesome. I get exclusive podcasts. All right, am I going to get any of those 3 books, or do I have to go out and buy them?
Actually, yes. I forgot. I already announced it to this. Well, you didn't watch the video, did you?
No, I was. It was Friday night, man. I'm busy.
All right. Anyway, you're going to get this one. Because the books
good. That's the one I wanted.
Smaller, and that wasn't done on purpose. It was just, oh, this one's great. This one's great. And I didn't realize it. From the Seraphic Order Franciscan Book of Saints was massive.
Yeah.
And then Life of St. Francis, also big, but not
very
as massive.
Big.
Then
I'm very behind in my Mediatrix rating.
Yeah. Then I got to 2 other ones that actually got progressively smaller, and that wasn't the point. It was actually because these books were great. So we're going to go the other direction because this one's a little thicker. It's about
okay, good. Brother Martin,
pages.
Next. Shameless plug.
The Oblates of St. Augustine just received their first novice this past week on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. So we have a new novice, Brother Nicholas Zawoski. So that's very exciting news. Another thing is we have now on our website, oblatesofstaugustine.com/shop, these Brother Chewy mugs that you can offer a donation for. So it has Brother Chewy on them and then Oblates of St. Augustine on the back with Cor Unum et Anima Una in Deum. So there you go. You've seen me and Ryan drinking from them today, but yeah, you can have one for yourself.
My wife didn't serve me in my Brother Chewy mug today. I'm sorry. All right, Dr. Marshall, shameless plug.
I've got a new book that just came out. This is a print version, a preprint version, so it has a gray bar on it. But it's the Rosary in 50 pages, nice. And it's only 50 pages long, as the title says, but it gives why we have devotion to Our Lady, where the Hail Mary came from, where the Rosary came from, and then just powerful stories like Lepanto and Fatima and other great stories. And at the end, it's how to pray, saints on how to pray the Rosary more effectively, and then all the Rosary prayers in English and in Latin. Just a quick book to get you up to basically kind of like a little catechism on the Rosary. So you can get it at Amazon.com. Rosary in 50 pages. I think if you order it now, you'll get it before Christmas. A little stocking stuffer.
Awesome.
Hey, Doc, you still got the Christ was born on Christmas Day book?
I'm probably going to put out a really big official version for next Christmas.
Gotcha.
Very good. Well, thank you for joining us. Special guest, Dr. Taylor Marshall, author of Infiltration and The Rosary in 50 Pages. This is The Rundown. Thank you for watching. God bless. Subscribe to Sensus Fidelium and follow us on Twitter.